You got to sow some seed for increase. So we're going to talk about ways to sow. And I wanted Leroy to be up here with me because here's a successful businessman. A man who has paid the price to build a business, not just for his family, but how many employees do you have that you provide for?
Right now it's probably right around 8, 10.
8 to 10 other families that are provided because this man hit a point of desperation where he had to cross over, as he told us last night, into the promise that God had for him. And now he's able to step into a place of increase where he's serving huge corporations like Walmart and Disney. And let me just hit something real quick. I'm sorry. I know Christians that want to boycott big companies like Disney because they don't agree with what they stand for. How many of you have heard that? I don't care if you've done it or not. It doesn't matter.
It's good.
There was a time in my younger days when I boycotted Levi Strauss. I said, I'm not buying Levi's. And I bought some of the most uncomfortable jeans on the planet then. That was back in the days of J.C. Penney's plain pockets when no two pair of jeans were ever made the same.
Were you a Wrangler man? Oh, don't confess that on TV.
I lived in Arizona. Wranglers was the way to go. And a big hat. And I boycotted Levi's and gave up a product that was in superior quality that would have served my needs more and actually saved me more money because I would have had to buy less of them. Did my boycott of Levi Strauss do anything to affect their business? No. Did they even care? No. People who want to boycott Disney because they don't know what they believe, they don't believe in what they stand for, are cutting themselves up for an opportunity. And I love how Leroy says, I might not agree with what Levi's or what Disney stands for, but I'll put a funnel under there and catch what they'll give me.
Right.
Do you think Joseph agreed with what Pharaoh stood for?
Good.
And didn't he end up overseeing all that transference of wealth?
Mm-hmm. Right. So instead of, there's this divide. There's the corporate world and then there's the church. And you sometimes you alienate yourself. You put a wall up because you say, I want nothing to do with that. Listen, that's multi-millions, billions of dollars sitting there. Is the transfer going to happen, yes or no? Yes. So the only question is what? Where's your alignment and how much you're going to catch? Period. If you have you got a Ziploc baggie, you're going to get a tiny bit. As he said, I've got funnels set up everywhere. I got a funnel underneath Walmart, Dollar Tree, Guess, Adidas, Reebok, Foot Locker. Who else, Rochelle? Swarovski Crystal. Amway Center. I contracted the Orlando Magic. That just opened up. Lockheed Martin. Anywhere else? Listen, I got little profit centers everywhere. Bang, bang, bang. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what you stand in. You give me your money and I'll put it into what I believe in.
Yeah. You got to be in a position to receive. I don't care if you agree with him or not. We know Joseph did not agree with Pharaoh. But he came right along Pharaoh. He supported it. And what's really cool about that, the largest transference of wealth recorded in the Bible, all of the people of the world, those were the people of Egypt, wound up selling everything, their farmlands, their livestock. They gave it all to Pharaoh and they became sharecroppers. But the people of Israel owned the land of Goshen, which is why when they left, the Egyptians had to give them a gold because they had to buy it back. Mm. Good stuff, huh?
You get it all back.
You get it, as long as you serve the right master. Now, we've talked about how you can start to pay off your debt and how you can start to build exponential savings, because when you start with a little, to he who is faithful with little, you will be given much. Yes. The words of Jesus in Luke 19, it says, he who has will be given more. Yeah. Can we directly translate that to the interest that you receive off your investments? Do you receive interest when you give to the kingdom of God? In fact, I'm not going to say that's even interest. Those are dividends paid back to you in more ways than you can enjoy.
Right.
When you give, you might not always see a monetary reward, but the Bible says that he rebukes the devourer, which means your stuff don't wear out. The greatest story that I could share with you personally on that is my daughter when she was, how old was she? 8? 9?
She's 8.
8 years old. Crashes on a skateboard, face first into the sidewalk, and breaks her 2 front teeth off at the root. So we're taking her to dentist and getting her treated, and we have a dentist that does a quick fix until we can afford to put caps on. And fills her teeth in and does beautiful with filling material. I mean, it was broke off at the root. It was broke down to where you barely saw any white below her gum line. It was broke off that bad. And they filled it in with material that they do a filling with, and actually built her up a tooth that lasted until she was 18. And even at 18, it didn't need done. We're like, well, baby girl, you're leaving us. You're going off to college. Mom and Dad are going to get you new front teeth before you go, just so you don't have to deal with that expense when you get there. That should have never lasted 10 years. But it does. But it does.
Amen.
Because when you give, God rebukes the devourer. That's just another way that he gives back to you.
Right.
When you're properly sowing seed, do you think he'll give you increase by sowing that seed properly? The way our banking system is set up, we're allowed to have a little thing called interest. Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. We all know who Einstein was, right? Brilliant man. And he understood money the same way he understood science. And he basically said about interest is if you understand it, you'll earn it. If you don't, you'll pay it. Yesterday we looked at interest being your single biggest expense out of your budget. Anybody remember how much interest you were paying on average? 42% of the average income goes to interest. About $280,000 over the course of the average American life goes to interest.
Wow.
$250,000. It costs less than that to raise a kid. We're raising banks. If you understand interest, you'll earn it. If you don't, you'll pay it. Leroy, you understand interest?
Love it. It works to my advantage every day. For interest, and even to touch back on, you value your stuff will value you. I had a truck. I literally had a truck that I loved the truck. I took care of it. It was like a 04. I had the thing for 300,000 miles. Could I have traded in it? Could I have afforded a bigger one? Oh, listen, that truck I loved it. And everybody got in. It was like, it's a what year? I was like, man, that's a great, absolutely. And here's the deal. Because I'm blessed. The blessing, I valued that thing. I took care of it. And you know what? It took care of me. And here's the deal. I left, when I separated from that old company and I left it behind, that company that wasn't under that, the truck was done in 2 months, 3 months. The guys ran it out of oil. It was done. Wasted. I got another truck. It's going to last me. I take good care of it. It'll last me another 300,000 miles.
When you're not having to pay on a truck because you're taking care of it, how much extra money that would have went to build a car, fix a car, pay for a car, do you now have to go invest?
Right.
Jesus is looking for multipliers. He's looking for multipliers. He's looking for people that will take the resources that he's giving you and multiply it. How many of you want to finish this race, enter the pearly gates, stand in the glory of the Father, and hear the words, well done? Yeah. Who did he say that to? People who multiplied. Luke chapter 19 is perhaps one of my favorite chapters out of the entire Bible. And that's a pretty high standard because I love that book. #1 best-selling book of all time, you realize that. Every self-help book that's written out there is based in biblical principles. They try to take God out, but they can't take his principles out.
Right.
Luke 19 stands out as a very powerful and often misquoted chapter. You know the entire chapter is about money? It starts off talking about a man named Zacchaeus. He's a rich dude. He's a tax collector. He's despised by the community around him, partially because of his job and partially because he's rich. They're envious of him. You will never get wealth if you envy the wealthy.
It's good.
It won't happen.
Right.
And Jesus sees Zacchaeus and tells him, hey, dude, come down out of that tree. I need to come stay at your house. So he approaches this rich guy and says, I have need of you. All these other people are around trying to witness to him, trying to minister to him, trying to get part of him. They want him for what he's got to give them.
It's good.
Zacchaeus, he needs Jesus for who he is, not what he can do. And Jesus sees this and goes, yo, I need you. I need to come stay at your house. He said that to a rich man. And when the people start squabbling, Jesus says, no, salvation is here. And then he pulls the verse that's most often quoted just before an altar call that says, the Son of Man came to seek and save that which is lost. He started the topic dealing with a rich guy and how that guy handled his finances. Did he suddenly switch to saving your soul? Because in verse 11, he goes right back to launch a parable that deals with finances. We take that so out of context. We use it as an altar call. And Jesus is really looking for people who will multiply the resources. And he launches into the parable of the minas. And he starts talking to 10 people, and he gives them each a mina. And I'm going to paraphrase this. You can go back and look this thing up. As he continued talking about money, the chapter ends, by the way, with him turning over the tables in the temple. Whole chapter is all about her money. Luke was brilliant that way. He was a business guy, obviously a marketplace minister. The guy who mixed business and ministry to create what I call binistry. And he was brilliant. And as he writes the story of Jesus giving these minas out, Jesus calls 10 of his servants and he gives each of them a mina. The word says that he gives seed to the sower.
Right.
Here you've got 10 people that he wants to sow, so he gives them all seed. The seed that he gave them, that mina, was equal to about 3 months worth of income. 3 months worth of average salary, and he gives it to them. Now, if you read the story, 2 of them went and invested. 1 turns the mina into 10. And Jesus says, well done. He doesn't say anything to anybody else except the guy who multiplied. Well done. And he comes back and says, to you I give authority over 10 cities. We pray, God, give us the city. And then we go to dinner at Emerald's and worry about how to pay the credit card. But God, give us the city. But he gave authority to those people who multiplied. Got to have that multiplication. He needs people to multiply. The second group, the second guy comes back and he turned the mina into 5. And he got authority over 5 cities. The third guy buried it and got nothing except a tongue lashing from the master.
Right.
And the other 7, it finishes the story out saying, bring those unfaithful servants to me and slay them in front of me. Those are the ones that are still praying, God, give me the city. But they're not multiplying the resources that were given. Y'all heard of the 80-20 rule? There it is, right there in Scripture. 10 people, 2 multiplied and came back. The other 8 did not. Leroy talked about it last night. We sent 10 spies into the land. 2 of them came back with a good report. 8 of them did not. 80-20 rule. You want to be successful, you want to multiply, you've got to do what others won't. You've got to multiply. Leroy, you run your business. I know, like me, much of what I do started out of pure desperation. But it becomes a passion, doesn't it?
Right.
It becomes something you have to do.
Right.
And it becomes bigger than you, right?
Absolutely. It's, for us, I look at what we've been communicating, and what comes to mind is you have to know where you're at. For you to walk out of this weekend and say, man, Leroy's hanging out with his wife all. Leroy goes and plays around and goes here and bounces there. Troy's, what do these guys do? I'm going to do that, and God will bless me. I'm telling you, you'll fall flat on your face so fast because you don't know. You have to know where you're at. And see, and what I was talking to him at the break was, you don't know the times that I worked all day and then had to travel and drive up to this state to go handle that job and put that fire out, get no sleep, get 2 hours sleep, drive here, get call from Disney, go there at 2 a.m., do a power shutdown. See, nobody sees that stuff. Because you're out there, you know what you're doing? You're making yourself a man. You're building your business. You're going through the grind. Leroy, how is it that your phone rings all the time? It's because I've built a reputation. People in my industry know. Here's what they know. I'll call Leroy. He'll fix my problem. I might pay a lot of money. If I'm in real big need, I'm going to pay a lot of money. But anything that I go to Leroy with gets handled. He solves my problems. That's my reputation. Now I don't have to go chase it. It comes to me.
And in chasing it, it becomes more of a mandate. He knows he's got to do this in order to sow for the kingdom. Leroy was telling me something during the break in relation to giving, and I'm going to share this if I could.
Yeah.
He says he doesn't give based on what he earns. He gives based on the profit that he expects. How many of you put an expectation on God?
Mm-hmm. That's attaching your giving to faith. If you make 20 grand and you say, well, Lord, I'll give you. If you live on the bare minimum, you're going to get the bare minimum. That's you know what? I just want God to meet my needs. Then just give the 10%. People that don't even give that, I'm not even talking about, because you're not in right relationship with God. You don't even know who God is. 10% is bare minimum. That's just to meet your need. God said, hey, you know what I'm going to do? You know what God did for me? God went way above and beyond. You know what I'm going to do for him? Lord, I expect when in an industry that makes 10, 20%, I'm going to give you 50%. I give like I make 50% on every single job. You know what happens? What just happened? I just did a retail job. I made 56%. I wonder how that happened. Wasn't on accident.
You put an expectation on God. You sow seed, expecting multiplication. God opens the opportunity to multiply. Leroy, in building his business, has built out something that provides for far more than his family, because he gives and sows into ministries and programs that God has put on his heart. Because he does things to be able to build other lives, God has blessed him with an increase that has enabled him to provide for his family at a very comfortable lifestyle, while also providing for 8 to 10 other families through employment through his company. Mm-hmm. That's multiplication. How many of you would love to be able to give more to ministries? You need multiplication.
Right.
Money makes this natural world go around. It is the single most powerful natural force on earth. And you've got to direct where to go. You've got to multiply it. Jesus is looking for people to multiply. When he gathered his servants together, he told them to go do business until I come. And that word do business means to earn a return, trading, bartering, or conducting business affairs. He didn't say, take this, go get a job, start a savings account, build a large retirement plan, and go retire at Club Med. He said, go do business until I come. Now, it gets even deeper than that. Because in this parable, he also talks about the state of the kingdom. He was the ruler over a kingdom where the subjects did not like the master. It was a hostile environment. How many of you know we live in a hostile environment today?
Yes, sir.
The church is under attack from all directions. Of course, if you think you got persecution now, you need to leave America and go to a real country. Yes. Go see some of these people that are being locked up for their faith. I've got a friend who spent 3 years in a Chinese prison because of his religious faith. He grew up in China, was a Chinese national, came to America, got his naturalized U.S. citizenship, went back to China, sharing his faith, was arrested and thrown into prison, and the only thing that kept him alive, he said he was in prison with people for the same thing who would just disappear. And the only thing that kept him alive was the fact that the U.S. consulate would come check on him every 30 days because he was a U.S. citizen. You think you got persecution in America, you need to start paying attention to what's going on in the world.
Right.
Because if we keep going down the same road, it's not going to be long before that happens right here. That's right. We are in a hostile environment. Jesus called his servants together, and he recognizes that his subjects didn't even want him to rule. Now, this goes even deeper into the church. How many times does a minister get up there to preach, and people get the attitude, Christians get the attitude of, I'm not going to let this money-grubbing preacher tell me what to do with my money.
It's good.
We're in a hostile environment. Jesus told people, he told his servants, do business until I come. How many of you know he's coming?
Yes, sir.
And he's going to come back and dwell in his people before he comes back for his people. And we've got a choice to say, how are we going to live? Are we going to let the hostile environment influence us? Or are we going to do what he has called us to do and become multipliers and start doing business? Now, that doesn't mean everybody needs to go open a business. I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you need to go out of here, develop a business plan, and start a business. Some of you may want to. Some of you have already shared ideas with me, dreams that have been on the shelf that you forgot about and let die because life got in the way. The necessary rat race, we call it, of just earning a paycheck to get by has prevented you from chasing your dreams and pursuing the business that God put on your heart. Some of you need to realize that you're already in business, working at your current job. You are a corporation of one.
That's good.
Your client is your employer.
Oh, that was good.
You need to get out of bed in the morning and go service your client and make your client the happiest client that you'll ever have. Because happy clients reward you with raises and promotions.
Right.
If you fail to please your client, is your client going to give you any more work? No, customers vote with their feet, people. How many of you have walked into a restaurant and got really bad service? How many of you went back to that restaurant the next day? No, you're done. You voted with your feet. As a customer, you says, I'm not taking my money back to that place. I'm going to go somewhere that treats me better. And then we go to work and we whine and cry because we didn't get a raise or a promotion and we decide to quit or go on strike. You're not serving your client. Your employer is your customer. And if they don't like your service, they will elect not to come back to your restaurant. You're already in business. The environment might be hostile, but your job is to make your clients happy. Jesus said in Luke 16 to make friends with unrighteous mammon. I've heard Christians say, I can't work for this company. They are the most unrighteous, ungodly company. The CEO's a devil worshiper. Who knows if he really is or not, but it sounds good. It always justifies the fact that I'm not going to work at my company. I'm not going to be a good steward over the job that God gave me, and I'm not going to take care of the client that he appointed me to serve. This is not in my notes, by the way. This is extra. You're a corporation of one. Your job is to keep your client happy. When you start working with this attitude, you will see transformations in the way that your employer handles you. You won't get passed up for promotions anymore. They'll start coming to you and asking you for advice. And even if they don't, somebody else that's connected with that company will recognize your heart of service, and you will be given an opportunity to come out. Nobody demonstrated this better than Joseph. There's a man who did business in a hostile environment, sold into slavery, serves Potiphar. How much do you think he learned about managing finances and wealth and resources while he was serving in the devil's house?
Right.
And here's a man who was so loyal, so faithful, that Potiphar's house was expanded because of Joseph's heart of service. And what does his evil employer do? Rewards him by throwing him into prison. Hey, it could happen. You could have an employer that resents you so much, they decide to fire you. Yeah. Turns out, Joseph's time in prison was the greatest thing that ever happened to him. Because that got him promoted to be at the right hand of the king of the land and oversee that transference of wealth. Who's ready to oversee that? Who's ready to be that multiplier? Yes. Jesus needs multipliers. We've got to do it. We're doing business in a hostile land. Let's look at some of the things we could do for business. How many of you want multiple streams of income? I shared with you yesterday the true definition of wealth. Anybody remember that? The true definition of wealth has nothing to do with the amount of money in your bank account. The true definition of wealth is, do you have enough income coming in to sustain your life without working? That's wealth. Keith showed you yesterday the pyramid, how most people build, starting with their job, then maybe making an investment in an IRA, 401k, maybe a little bit of stocks, what we call paper investments. And then if they really reach, they'll make and invest in one passive income stream that might give them a couple $100 a month, which they usually just eat up at Emerald's. And that pyramid stands on its peak, and if you don't balance it just right, the whole world collapses and it all goes. That's what happened in 2008. But if you do it the right way, even if you start with a job, you start by investing in passive income streams. When the market fell apart in 2008, my wife and I lost our net worth of about $3 million. It hurt. And I couldn't work after we shut our business down. It was about a year before I did anything. But we survived because we had passive income coming in from rental property. So when the dust all settled, yes, we lost some property. Yes, we lost some businesses. Yes, we lost a ton of money. But we still had our house. We still had our RV. We still had our cars. We still went on vacation with our kids every year. We still had our lifestyle completely intact because it didn't matter what the economy did. People still paid rent on those houses, and that rent went into our pocket to provide for our lifestyle. That's a true definition of wealth.
Right.
Bank account wiped out and go to zero, but the income comes in. How many of you want multiple streams of income? You got to start thinking differently about your money.
I mean, I think of the scripture, cast your bread upon what? Many waters. So, right? So I'm not expecting it from one place. I love what God has opened up because, like I said last night, if any one client called me and said, Leroy, this guy is cheaper. This guy is better. This guy is well. Listen, none of that stuff affects my income. In a heartbeat, I can shift gears. I can swap up. And so to me, you want a security blanket is not putting, they say it, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
That's right. You got to spread it around. So you start thinking about things you can do. We've already talked about your current job. You're a corporation of one. You start sowing in there. You're faithful. God will increase. Even if He doesn't increase you through that job. If you were to get fired or laid off or moved out of that job, you don't freak out. You move on. I loved how Keith yesterday was sharing the story when his employer called him in to talk about a layoff. And he didn't freak out like his Christian brother did.
Right.
He said, I understand, it's the way it goes. I'll finish my day. You remember him yesterday saying, his supervisor asked him, do you need to go home? He goes, no, I came here to work. I'm going to take care of what I came here to do. Because he knew that job was not his source.
Right.
And if one door closes, another one opens. It just means the cloud moved. You heard Leroy yesterday talking about how you can shift like that with business. You shift. Luke chapter 16, when Jesus gives the parable of the unjust steward. This guy sees that his income's about to dwindle and his way of life, although crooked, is dwindling. So he conceives this plan. And in that plan, he tries to indebt other people to him so that he can still have a means of support after his supervisor, after his boss lays him off. And the master finds out what he's doing, and of course his plan is kind of corrupt. It involves stealing from the master, not something you really want to do. So although he's not rewarded for his corrupt plan, the master praises his ingenuity and then tells his disciples that the people of the world are more creative than the people in my house. You should be that creative for good.
Right.
When Moses saw the cloud move, did he step out of the tent and go, bring on the sunscreen?
Right.
No. He said, oh, God's moving. We got to go. When it's time to pick up and leave from your job, for whatever reason, the cloud's moving. You got to go. And you got to go with all faith, knowing that God has made a plan for you. It's all about trust in Him. If you're faithful with the resources that He gives you, if you put seed in your silo, if you conduct business with the most integrity that you can in your heart, doing all things, as it says in Colossians, as unto the Lord,
Right.
then He will move you. He will prosper you. He will increase you, and He will make sure that you have exceeding abundance. And what are you going to do with that abundance? We talked about your current job. How many of you have ever thought about a home-based business? I bet if I really talk to you, everybody in this room has done some kind of network marketing. Some kind of potion, lotion, or pills, right?
Yes.
Hey, I've done Amway. I've done genetic vitamins. I've done various health products. And I won't lie, I've made a little bit of money at it. But I get burnt out on recruit.
You know, I have to put this in. When I was talking to Troy, we're building this relationship. We're working together. We're collaborating. I literally had to almost hold my breath, and I asked him the question of all relationships. Troy, are you in multi-level marketing? And it was this brace. I had this brace on, like, oh God, what is he going to say? And he says, no. And I go, oh, thank God. Because I didn't know if there was a string attached to his relationship. And I didn't know when that hook, line, and sinker is going to come in. Oh, well, you need to check my business out. I didn't know if there was what's the catch? You guys are sitting in this room. You guys are watching a video. There's no catch. There's no condition. Every relationship I have is no strings attached, brother. I'm not looking. I don't care. Listen, if you have something to offer, if you don't have it, I don't care. God bless you. I want you to be better off. All of my guys, all of my employees, all of our teams, they know I want the best for them. I want you to win. I want you to succeed. If you want to grow, if you want to multiply, get with me. I'll show you how to double and triple. It ain't going to be doing the same work that you're doing now. You're going to have to run something. You're going to have to manage something. You're going to have to step up. So I value the relationships that we're able to have that says, listen, I love you where you're at. I accept you where you're at. If you bring nothing to the table, we can still hang.
It's important to note when Jesus gave people a mina, he acknowledged and gave authority to those who brought it back. Let me introduce this concept into your lives. What if when you approach somebody and you're thinking about an investment partnership, a business relationship, help with your nonprofit project, help moving, anything like that, if you approach this with the same way that Jesus did, Jesus gave them each a small task. Take this mina and go do business.
Right.
The ones that brought it back are the ones that he spent time with. He didn't spend a lot of time with the other 8 people. Mm-hmm. How many of us want to go spend time with the 8 people and try to nurture them and grow them and force them up? Mm-mm. Thinking, well, glad 20% got it. Now let's get these 80% to get on board. And we burn ourselves out. I see this happen to ministers. I see this happen to businessmen. People who burn themselves out because they're investing in the wrong group of people. Mm. If Jesus only paid attention to the one who brought it back, why are you paying attention to the ones who don't?
That's good.
You give the small task to somebody, when they bring it back, you spend time working with them and building that relationship.
Right.
And cultivating that God is building. And you don't waste your energies on the ones who don't. Mm-hmm. Well, home-based business can be great. I'm not against network marketing, because the one thing I do like about network marketing is the personal development and growth that it goes through.
You're right. I agree.
You do need to learn to deal with people. People have money, and if you want money, you better get good with people. Mm-hmm. Network marketing will teach you how to get good with people. You just got to separate it. No strings. Mm-hmm. They like your product, great. If they don't, great. It's wonderful.
Right.
It's wonderful.
If you're in any type of sales, for me, the one thing, the biggest lesson that I got out of that is if I'm going to step into your life and I want to help you create what you want to create. And as soon as I do that, I just added instant value, and now you want what I have. I never, ever, you are a horrific salesman when you get in somebody's face and you ask them some off-the-wall question. You have no clue where they're at. You have no clue what they want. And hey, do you want a property? You don't even know me. You don't even know my name. Why would you come to me with that? You are so left field. You'll waste your time. Listen, where are you at? Oh, you're a young couple. You're looking, do you need a property? You ask them the question, where are they at? Any type of sales, any type of thing that you're growing in, find out what the needs are. And if you meet a need, the money comes in.
If you're looking at home-based business, there's so many things you can do, as Leroy starts to point out, to meet a need.
Right.
And to meet that need for your community. One of the things you can start doing is looking at your heart. What is your passion? Mm-hmm. I had a friend who loved photography. Loved photography, loved to take pictures, loved to play with the camera. Photography was great. So she decided to start doing photography for her friends. We told her, you need to start charging a fee. Pretty soon she's got a website, she's got a camera, and her services are in demand. Started as a small little operation, doing something that she absolutely loved that turned into a wonderful income stream. How many of you had an idea like that? You start thinking about, what can I do? And you start doing it. I've got a good friend sitting here, Aaron, who's in the back of the room, and he didn't know I was going to pick on him. Here's a man I've known. Our daughters were best friends in kindergarten, and now they've grown up and left the house. Mine's moving to Georgia, his in New York City. So we've known each other quite a few years. Here's a man who follows his passion. He collects, can I say it? Sure. G.I. Joe dolls.
Action. No dolls? Get the doll word out. Cut that thing out.
Let me just be real.
It's an action figurine,
When our girls were probably second or third grade, and I'm over at his house for a barbecue, he's showing me this G.I. Joe that he just got that comes with a submarine. What was the name of that particular Joe?
Well, it's a sea adventurer, and he's in the Sea Wolf.
The Sea Adventure. He's got the Sea Wolf submarine, and he's so excited he tells me about it. Pretty soon he's got me in the deep end of the pool, swimming around on the bottom, playing with a submarine. His passion has led him to be a contributor to a book that was authored to collectors, The Definitive Guide to G.I. Joe or something like that.
How cool is that?
That's awesome. I don't know how much money he's made buying and selling action figures. It's a passion that has become a sideline business. And Aaron, you faced tough times in between jobs, and you were able to turn to eBay with your G.I. Joes and other activities and still generate income and keep going, right?
Absolutely.
So it's been a definitive additional income stream that keeps coming in.
Right.
So you got a choice when something happens. I can shut down and go, the supply line's cut off, or I can go, maybe God's forcing me to make a change. You know, sometimes you need a change. Crisis forces change, and if God's trying to move you somewhere and you're not moving, He's going to create a crisis that will force you to move. Good stuff.
Amen.
Another opportunity is stocks and bonds. Now, you're not going to get rich off stocks and bonds. Don't think you're going to become a day trader and get wealthy. I've done it, bought and sold options on the NASDAQ market, and I know I can make $200 or $300 a day if I'm real diligent and do it. But by the time the day's over and I'm all starry-eyed and I've done all this for $200, oh, you can lose $1,000 like that too.
Right. Right.
So you might make $200 or $300, but you can lose $1,000 like that. It's fun to watch the market go and react and, oh, it's time to get into this trade and set up the stock charts and all this, but you're not going to get wealthy doing it. The risk very often outweighs the reward. So you look at stocks and bonds as kind of savings on steroids. You find a good company that provides a good product and a good service to the community that has a low debt load and a good marketing plan. And then you go into it for long term. When you're investing in a stock, you're not actually investing to get a return, although that's the ultimate goal. You need to think about it as, I'm loaning my money to this company.
Right.
If your cousin Nikki, who just got out of jail yesterday for grand larceny, calls you up and goes, man, I just need to borrow $100. I swear I'll pay you back on Tuesday. Are you going to give it to him? No. Bad investment. But when we look at stocks, or we go buy the Iranian Drakari or whatever it's called, expecting this return, we're investing for greed. Instead of recognizing, here's a company that can benefit by me loaning to it so that it can expand and better service the community. Different concept when it comes to stocks and bonds, right? Mm-hmm. Done properly, you'll receive some good growth. Mm-hmm. Done improperly, mammon will snare you and take what you've got. So watch that one. Commodities, same thing. How many of you hear the fear that says, buy gold? Mm-hmm. The economy's crashing.
Right.
In the 70s, late 70s, gold reached about $600 an ounce. Inflation was at about 14%, interest rates were then about 14%. Inflation was running rampant. Economy was kind of in the doldrums. People are saying the economy is going to crash, buy gold. If you bought gold then and the market fell, it took until about 2004 for gold to come back to $600 an ounce again. Gold has never outpaced inflation. It's a market timing issue that you're looking at if you enter into commodities. Don't buy out of fear.
That's good.
Buy because God is directing you to get in there to buy. You should never make an investment decision or a business stance without first falling on your face and asking God, is this the right direction for me to go?
And he just hit a big one and passed right over it. Your decisions, where do they come from? Are you reacting? Are you reacting out of fear? Oh my God, everything's falling apart. I'm going to go do this. And here's another big one. If you're doing what you see being done on TV, thinking you're going to do something well, if right now, Ronnie, we talked about this in the back. Right now, you don't know nothing about real estate. I'm going to go into real estate and I'm going to start flipping houses. Ronnie, tell me what's going to happen. You're going to fall on your face. Why? Everybody else is doing it. This guy did it, and he made $60,000 in 3 weeks. Okay.
There's a seminar right next door here, right now, from one of those flip those houses and get rich people that runs the infomercial and does all that. And look, I flipped a few houses in my lifetime. It's real. It works.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But this program is set up to get you to come in, take an expensive seminar, buy a $40,000 training that's then going to teach you how to go out and do it. Does that sound like you're really putting seed in the right place? I know companies that sell that for $100,000 and they get people to pay it. Is that unbelievable? Wow. Yes, you can do it.
Who's the smart business owner? In that scenario, who's the smart business owner? The guy running it.
That's right.
He's laughing all the way at the bank. $2 grand, $2 grand, $3 grand, $5 grand, $2 grand, $2 grand. What did he do? I showed up, I paid for a hotel room, and I got all your money. Yep. God bless you. Good luck.
Now, the truth is, there's a lot of good programs out there.
Right.
That do give you good training.
Absolutely.
That really can help you to get where you want to be. And that can be a chunk of change, but so is a college education. And college is just another form of business.
Right.
But if you're going to enter into that, or any other type of training or any other type of business, and you do it without first asking the one who put the resources in your hand if you should do that with the resources that belong to him, how effective will it be? Not very. Not very. Another great place for growth. Anybody ever heard of tax lien investing? In Florida, we have property taxes. Every state has property taxes. And this is kind of a cool little strategy, really. Yeah. Somebody doesn't pay their taxes on their home. The county needs those tax monies. And the way government budgets is if they've got a surplus, they have to spend it or it won't be in the budget next year. Government believes you have to exhaust the budget every year.
Right.
Unfortunately, so do most American families. So the government needs those taxes. So if somebody doesn't pay their taxes, the government goes, well, how are we going to get this? So they will sell that lien position to us. So if there's a homeowner out there who has a house that has $3,000 in taxes and they don't pay their taxes this year, the government then advertises that as a lien. And we can come in and we can buy that lien and earn up to 18% interest. 18% is a pretty good rate of return, right? Now, you could even end up owning that property, which is a great rate of return, and it's pretty well secured because your tax lien gets in first position. It's a great little investment strategy. It's a phenomenal strategy to do out of a long-term account like an IRA or a 401k or a long-term investment account because it's long-term growth that comes at a rapid pace. It enables you to actually make money with real estate when you can't afford to buy the whole house.
It's good.
It's a really good strategy. How many of you are interested in owning real estate? I'll tell you, churches should own real estate. They should own shopping centers and apartment buildings.
Right.
They should own storefronts. I know of a church in East Orlando that built an entire shopping center. They have their church set up in one side and they rent the rest of it all to local businesses. The businesses are all open Monday through Saturday. They're paying rent to the church, and the church has full use of the entire shopping center parking lot for all of its attendees come Sunday and evenings after business hours. And how much do you think that building cost them? Nothing, because the merchants are working to provide. Now when the members of that church have a need, is that church able to minister to those people?
Absolutely.
I met a pastor in Macon, Georgia, who has a church in a kind of economically depressed part of town. So what did he do? He went up and started buying up the apartment buildings that surrounded his church. And the rents from that apartment building paid to grow his church and freed him up to be able to grow his ministry. That's increase. That's putting resources in the right place. As individuals, should we be planting seed in resources that can start to bring it out? I believe everybody should own at least one rental property. There's no greater form of income than a rental property. Even if you buy a little shack in the ghetto somewhere, it can generate about $1,000 in income this month. You provide a good quality house to a family that needs a home. There's no better service than providing somebody a home. Any business activity, any economic activity that you do needs to minister to the community that it serves. A piece of rental property ministers in the most sanctified way that you ever can by providing somebody a sanctuary. You think about it when the world is rough, when it beats you up. Where do you go? Where do you run to hide? You go home. That's sanctuary. That's your place. And when you can provide a home to a family, they show their appreciation by paying you rent.
Right.
What a beautiful thing, right? These are all great ideas. We could go on forever and ever, and I've taught entire seminars around developing income streams. We're here to open up your eyes to things God can do, not to try to sell you into an investment program.
Right.
God will direct you in the areas to go. When you start seeing the possibilities and you start seeking Him, He will open up the relationships for you. And He will show you ways that you can get involved in this. And there are things you can do with next to nothing. Now, one of the first businesses I started with 3 months worth of income. When Jesus gave a mina, that was 3 months worth of income. So I had 3 months worth of income that I'd saved in my silo that grew to employ 14 people and generated $750,000 a year in income. Leroy told the story yesterday of how he started his business in a Kia.
Zero.
Ladder sticking out the window. I could see it. In fact, every time I drive down the road
Shut
now
up.
and I see
Don't
a
even
small
remind
car
me.
with a ladder sticking out.
Yes, sir. That was Leroy Electric coming to take care of things. You know, I have to tell you this. I stuck a 10-foot stick of pipe inside of a car. I slammed, the thing wouldn't shut. I'm like, bam! And it shattered the window. I was like, oh. I was like, honey, I just broke the window.
Let me ask you, was that car paid for?
I don't know. It was a cheap, I'm sure it was.
You
Actually,
say-
it was. We paid cash for that car. Yeah.
When you say cheap,
Thank you. I totaled the first one. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
let me guess. He was
Leroy
driving.
exposed. You know what I'm saying?
How much would that car cost you? About 3 months worth of your income?
Oh, that's a good word. $3,000. What was it? $3,000? Something like that. I don't know.
About $5,000?
Something like that.
And how much were you making working for your employer?
Nothing. 15. So $1,500 would have been 3 months' wages for me.
$1,500 would have been 3 months' wages?
No. I'm so sorry. 3 weeks. All right. So you multiply out $2,000, $6,000. $6,000 would be 3 months.
And
Sorry.
that car cost you around $5,000-6,000.
Yep.
So you really started a business with 3 months worth of wages.
Correct.
Isn't that interesting? I just kind of went there on a whim because I see the principle outlined in the Word. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if He outlined that principle in the Word, that these people went and multiplied and they started with a mina that's equal to about 3 months worth of wages, then your first goal should be to get to a place where you've got 3 months worth of wages in either assets, in either wealth, riches, or money. 3 months worth of wages stored up in assets that you can start to employ for the kingdom so that He can open up for you the avenues of increase.
That's good. I love the story of the camera. How much capital did she have? $500 camera? That's what she had. $500. When I lost my job, I lost a job and I had to do something just to provide income. I had zero. I had whatever I had is what I had. And I hate to say that. It sounds very simple. But I couldn't go try to get something I didn't have. I couldn't wait on a $10,000 capital to hit us. It was react, respond, move. And whatever, and see, here's the deal. Everybody in here, guys, you have your 5 loaves and 2 fish. And I'm not going to get on that side. You have what you have for a reason. And God, if you take that little bit, give it to Him. Let Him break it, bless it, and give it. You know what God will do with you? Take your little bit. He'll break you, He'll bless you, and He'll give you.
Yes.
Then the 5 and 2 go to thousands.
It's up to you to recognize the opportunity.
Right.
Recognizing opportunity can also equate to what's going on with the market cycles. You know, wealthy people buy when other people are panicking and selling.
Right.
The 98% of the people buy high and sell low because they're buying on emotion. They don't understand the cycles of the market. So when God hands you an opportunity, you don't see the opportunity for what it is and start snapping it up and investing and putting yourself in a place to be a multiplier and enjoy the increase. You start selling and panicking. And then you get with all the other people that go around saying, well, the economy's bad right now. The market's really down. We've got to wait for another opportunity. When you've got the top 2% of the wage earners around the world, and I don't care what kind of a nation or what kind of economy you work, this cycle is going to hold true regardless. It might be more difficult in some government to be able to go out and earn wages and build wealth. I had a client from Sweden, one of the most heavily taxed socialistic economies in the world. The average tax rate is 50%, the average rate. That's more than our interest rate, and that interest is killing us. So the average tax rate is 50%. And he still managed to buy a shopping center downtown, establish a daycare he had a kindergarten through third grade or something like that he ran as a daycare type facility in this building. He leased out apartments. He bought some land on an island right off the mainland there in Stockholm and started establishing vacation homes. J. Gunnar Olsen, who's founder of the Christian Chamber of Commerce that's now based in Jerusalem and has done phenomenal things for God in the world of business. He's penetrated China with a message that says you can start a business using biblical principles in a land where government will not let people bring Bibles into the country. Because business will go and economics will go where Bibles cannot.
Correct.
And he started in Sweden. I don't care what the government says. I don't care what the market says. Deuteronomy 38 says that you are the head and not the tail. That you are above and not beneath. And if you start looking at that, you understand that when you step into God, there is no end to your increase as long as you are like the sons of Issachar and understand the times that you're in.
Let's go.
So you got to understand the seasons of the market. Market's got 4 basic cycles. Market goes up, market goes down, it has a top, it has a bottom. It's easy to know when the market's at top because everybody is talking about it.
All right. Everybody's doing it.
That's right.
50% of people are real estate agents right now. It's a fake number, but do you remember that?
Yes. When the real estate market was at its peak, I went on a 3rd grade field trip with my daughter. And one of her classmates is telling me how his parents are taking out an equity loan and investing in real estate. The 3rd grade teacher joins in to tell me how her and her husband are investing in real estate. When the topic of conversation on a 3rd grade field trip is about a particular investment strategy, it's probably at the top of the market. Would that be safe to say? How many people got wiped out after that? A lot. You know, it affected every one of us, no matter how prepared we were. But we understand the cycles. When that real estate market hit bottom, how many people were able to come in and start buying houses cheap? And how many people said, I'll never be able to buy a house again, my credit's destroyed, the market's bad, I'll never. What's the difference? One recognized the cycle and seized the opportunity, and one did not pay attention to the signs of the time and lived by their emotion. As an investor, as a business owner, as a multiplier, we're always looking to God to open up the opportunity for us. Right. And God will always show us what's going on if we will open our eyes and pay attention. And one of the things we can look at is what's going on in the market. What stage is this market cycle in? If it's in an up cycle, it might be a good time to get in. If it's in a down cycle, it's a good time to wait because the opportunity is about to get cheap. And because the meek will always inherit the earth, those who are meek with their money will have the money to buy the riches that produce the wealth when the market crashes. Understand the cycles. I was waiting for you to comment on that.
Sorry. Moving on.
Where's your future income coming from? We're going a little bit longer than I planned here, and we want to get to lunch. So start thinking about your future income. There always comes a point in time where we can't work. Now, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're at. It is never, ever too late to step into God's economy and start understanding and enjoying His increase. Because as long as you're on this earth and you're breathing, you're subject to every promise that He's ever made. And He promises that He will meet your needs according to His riches and glory. And all of the silver and all of the gold is His, and so are the cattle on 1,000 hills, at least 1,000 hills, which is enough for me because it's more cattle than I really care to have. Cows are cool, but they kind of stink. So where's your future income coming from? Think about places you can put it. When you've got savings and you want to put your savings on steroids, you can start looking at some good mutual funds. I subscribe to a stock investing newsletter that Money Magazine rated as the highest rate of return over the last decade, and it's put out by the Motley Fool. I'm not trying to endorse them, but it's one that I subscribe to. You're welcome to Google that or look at anything else. You can start with a simple little subscription to Money Magazine. That will help you to start seeing what's going on in the market and start owing up some opportunities.
Right.
When you understand the market cycle and what the opportunities are, you can get in. I don't care if the economy crashes, people will still grow. Businesses will still spring up. Right. People like R.G. Letourneau will still build empires that impact the earth in the worst economy that you can imagine. That's God's plan for prosperity. So where would you start to put your seed? We could do mutual funds. We can do IRAs, 401ks. I'm not a big fan of traditional 401ks, traditional IRAs. They might give you some tax-deferred benefits today, but later on in life, when you start to make the withdrawal, your tax penalties are even higher because the tax rates are higher because the way government's spending, where are they going to get the money they need to pay that debt later on? They're going to tax you.
Right.
So you've been putting all this money tax-deferred, you've been saving it today, and later on, especially if you're raising kids, kids are little tax deductions as far as the IRS goes. But once they're 17, the child tax credit starts to go away. Once they leave the house, you can't write off any expenses. That's assuming that they're providing for themselves. And if you know how to prepare the next generation, they will be. So then you're in a higher tax bracket and you start to withdraw the money that you've saved for your life, and now you're taxed even higher. But I like the Roth because under current tax rules, the Roth is tax-free savings. You're putting that money away after taxes. So if you invest it properly, you get tax-free growth. Now let me just throw this concept out there to you real quick. What if you started saving seed in a silo that's known as a Roth IRA? And then you use that Roth IRA to buy yourself that piece of income property. And the rent starts growing back into your IRA. That starts to build compounding. Money returned back into your account. That when you reach the age that you're able to start taking it out, not only is the rent built up for all those years, but now the income that comes out of that, because it was done in your Roth, it's tax-free gains under current tax rules. Does that sound like a cool idea? I'm not trying to say that's what you do. I just want to open up some possibilities to you to start seeing things. So what do you use? What do you do? It doesn't matter. There are so many avenues out there, and God will open up opportunities. If you're working on a job right now and your employer offers any kind of an IRA plan, and they do employer matching, you better max out.
Do it.
Yeah,
Max it out.
that's right. That's right.
Find out whatever amount they will match and take the maximum amount.
Right.
What's wrong with getting your employer, who you're working very hard for, your client who you're servicing with your business, your corporation of one, to contribute additional monies to your future?
Right.
That's increase. Many people avoid that option by going, I really can't afford to have that out right now. I need more money. And mammon has you trapped in that, keeping you cut off from a supply of increase that's put in there for your benefit. You got to start when? Now. Tomorrow would be too late, right? Does it give you some ideas? Does this start to open up some possibilities on what you can do to start bringing increase? You need to understand, Jesus is looking for multipliers. We looked at the vision mapping yesterday. I don't care how big your dream is. Dreams were made a size too big so you could grow into them. But if you sit down and you start with your dream and you write it out, I don't care how big the dream is, write it out. Walt Disney had a huge dream, didn't he? And here's a man who was laying on his deathbed the night he died, and his brother Roy comes to visit him, and Walt can't even sit up. And Roy lays on the bed next to him, and Walt paints this picture on the ceiling of what Disney World is going to look like. We in Orlando, Disney World built Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And Walt's like, it's going to be this, and this will be over here. And he paints such a vivid picture that even though he died that night, Disney World was still built. Because the dream that was so big, he mapped out. He took that dream and then realized in order to accomplish Disney World, which has several major theme parks, water parks, hotels, attractions, an empire of Mecca, a Mecca empire that has all this entertainment that's world-renowned. In order to build that huge dream, he broke it down into a few simple steps. He took it from a dream. He says, in order for this dream to be a reality, I'm going to accomplish this certain goals. And in order for me to reach those goals, I'm going to have to take these steps. And in order for me to complete those steps, I'm going to have to start with the little tasks that I can do one day at a time. No dream is ever too big if you can break it down into the baby steps that you can do day by day. Now, he didn't build Disney World in a year. So you're not going to go out and make $1 million this year. Leroy said it yesterday. If you're used to a $30,000 a year income and you set a goal to go make $500,000 this year, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. You've got to expand your mindset to believe that you're worth more. You've got to expand the stakes on your tent in order to get ready to hold more.
Right.
That's a process that takes a little bit of time.
Yes.
So you've got to be willing to go that time. So maybe it won't take a year, but could it be done in 5 years, 10 years? You paint the picture.
Right.
You write the dream. You break it down into your goals. You organize the steps. And then you start working daily the tasks in order for you to get there. Remember, Jesus is looking for multipliers. Your job is to be a top 20%er and be that multiplier. Are you ready? You up to the task? All right. Let's go get them. Now we're going to take a break for lunch.